Namaste, everyone. You're watching us live on HinduScriptures.com page. You're welcome to this session on Hindu culture and lifestyle. It's a book series which I've been promoting on different platforms. So, as promised, today we have a very interesting speaker who's going to talk about a very uh, deep and wide in terms of philosophy. Uh, Sort of a work done by Shankaracharya ji. And because I was very keen that this time we find somebody who has done some research on Vivek Chudamani. So today we are going to talk about Vivek Chudamani. But before we start our session, one small thing I wanted to clarify because we have few users who have inquired. We invite speakers on the basis of their research and some kind of knowledge I have about them. Either I know them personally or I have got to know them about from from someone really known, known to them. And we of course don't charge anything, or neither we take money from anyone. And this is absolute pure seva from my side to the to our audience. Also remember that if you share our page, and if you like our page, if you comment, it would be a great encouragement to all our speakers. Feel free to ask the questions. You can ask questions below the video, and we will ensure that you get your answers whenever possible. So namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste, Vaishalaji.
Swamiji, we have this tradition of starting the session with some prayer. I would like to request to do a small prayer before we start.
Sure. Om ஈடுபாடுடன் செயல் நிபந்தனையற்ற அன்பு தானெனும் மகந்தை நீக்கம் தொடர் தியானம் எவ்வுயிரும் தன்னுயிராய் உணர்தல் இயல்பாக வாழ்தல் இவையே பூரண வாழ்வும் வளவும் தரும் சக்தியே சத்தியம். ஓம் த்ரயம்பகம் யாமகி சுகந்திம் புஷ்டிவர்தனம் ரோர்வார்கமி பவந்தனான் மிருத்யோர்முஷீயமாம்ருதாத். ஓம்.
Thank you, Swamiji. Swamiji, I would like to read your introduction to our audience so that they know a bit more about you. Um, oh my God, why is ringing? Yeah. Swamiji is, his full name is Sri Atma Nambiji, was born on March 17, 1955 in Kumbakonam, Tamil Nadu. His spiritual journey started from his school-going days. He met few masters and teachers who taught him the art of bhakti, karma, and gnan. His regular spiritual sadhanas took him to enlightenment on October 7th, 1994. From that day onwards, he keeps traveling and connects to people across many countries worldwide to create world peace and spiritual mass awakening. His to humanity is being recognized by many organizations, both nationally and internationally. Swamiji, welcome to our session. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We are really privileged to have you, and I've been reading about your work and quite impressed. So tell us something about your initial journey, how you were in your school days, and how did you start? What drew you here in this, from regular clothes to the orange clothes?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Vaishalaji. I was born in a village nearby Kumbakonam, which is a city. The city is known for temple, full of temple. The whole city you can see. It's famous for that. So I was born near a very small village near Kumbakonam. And starting from my school days, I had a connection with a temple priest, Shiva temple priest. His name is Nataraja Gurukal. He's a Gurukal in a Shiva temple. So I had a connection with him. So I was impressed by him. And apart from the school going hours, I used to go to him and I used to serve him when I was around 10 plus age, very young boy. And he was just teaching me things like mantras and the importance of temple, the concept of temple, the meaning of temple, and associated things like that. So I was connected to spirituality in that way. Afterwards, he sent me to another personality. His name is Lakshmi Narayan. Lakshmi Narayanan is good in Bhagavad Gita, especially the Karma Yoga. Actually, that time I was working as a first line manager in a company known as AstraZeneca. Today, it's very famous, this AstraZeneca name, because of the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. I worked for the company for about 11 years as a first line marketing area manager in the field. He happened to my boss also. He was my boss. So both the professional as well as spiritual combination I had with him. He really imbibed many beautiful aspects of Karma Yoga practically in the marketplace, not only a theoretical way. So that way I can say I was very fortunate those days for about 11 years almost, which is a huge time, wonderful time for me to have such a great personality. And then he just forwarded me to another person who is a very famous Kundalini Yoga master. And I met him. And then he referred to another master, another teacher, Yogiram Surat Kumar, who lived in body in Tiruvannamalai, a famous place, spiritual hub of the world, Tiruvannamalai. In fact, my first experience I got when I was sitting in front of him only. Such a ecstatic experience, kind of satori was offered, given by him only, by his presence. He's a very silent person. Yogiram Surat Kumar never talks much. He never gives lectures or things like that. He usually sit in silence. People will come and sit next to him, in front of him, and things happen like that. So I experienced something with him. Afterwards, I happened to meet another Tantra master. His name is Mohan Bharati. I had an association with him for some time, and he really taught me what is really Tantra and the important aspect of tantric approach for self-realization, etc. So this is how the journey started when I was a very young boy. And at the time, 1994, October 7th, there was a very significant experience happened in me, a divine experience. Afterwards, the spiritual journey, in the sense, the teachings, etc., started afterwards. Yes, Vaishali.
Swamiji, there is some noise behind you. Please
Ah,
sort this out because,
yeah.
I think something is moving. Please and ensure that nobody is there in the room so that,
Oh,
you
yeah, 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 yeah,
noise
yeah.
doesn't come. Because while recording, we'll have this problem.
Yeah. Now you check whether any noise now.
Now it's no noise. No. Okay. So then how did you stumble upon this particular theory? Because, there are many people doing many things and preaching many things. So how did you select that, okay, this is what I want to do? And this is
Uh,
what I preach?
this is interesting because after that experience that I told in 1994, October 7th, I just happened to see some scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta sections of Vedantas, etc. And when I started seeing these scriptures, Hindu scriptures, many scriptures, few scriptures really attracted me in spite of so many scriptures. Those attractions are Upanishads only. That is the reason exactly The very name I have given to my ashram is Upanishad Ananda Mandir. That is the very name of my ashram. Because I love the word very much, Upanishads. That's why the ashram name was coined as Upanishad Ananda Mandir. So of all the scriptures, I love the Vedantas, Upanishads, yes. And when I see deep into Upanishads even, this particular Viveka Chudamani, even Adi Shankaracharya ji himself, he told, this is the essence of all Upanishads. Because Upanishads are very oceanic, like oceans, like a very huge one, a large one. So common people cannot go through with each and every Upanishad and understand and practice and experience and anubhutis, etc. But Shankaracharya ji has compiled very, very beautifully in an essential way this Viveka Chudamani. That impressed me very much. I just gone through every single words of its logo was amazing, is amazing. It's about 580 verses he has created, he has written. Is really wonderful and wonderful. Each and every verse is like very atomic. So I was so impressed about it because today the modern world is so fast. People, they don't have time to listen so much things. So I decided to give a discourse on this particular Viveka Chudamani to my people in groups across the world, especially in European countries and the states of US and then Brazil and countries like that, in India also. People really liked it very much. They like it very much when I present this Viveka Chudamani. Even though Viveka Chudamani is available in the internet, it is not a new thing, that I found out or anything. But the way I present things, people really like it very much. Yeah. Yes, Vaishali.
So, what all activities you have in the ashram? Like what all you do?
Yes.
How did you start? Give us your spiritual journey, as in why did you put up the ashram and where all you have the ashram? Before now, we go to the main topic.
Yeah. It's very interesting actually, because I had no idea of creating ashram. To be frank with you, okay. I had no ambition. I had no idea at all. I was just actually speaking. After my realization, also I was continuing my pharma. This is a fact. I used to sit in pharma. People used to come to me and they talk casually about spirituality, a kind of spiritual chatting. We go to some tea shops and sitting there and have a cup of tea and discuss about the spirituality, self-realization, etc. This is how the thing started. I had no idea at all to start any ashram or organization or anything. Okay. So slowly, people started coming to me. So some of them, they told, instead of talking all these things sitting in a pharma, why can't we have a separate place for this purpose, spiritual purpose, so that we can exclusively talk about it? Like that, some of my friends and some of my people suggested me. It all happened like this, So in the beginning days, we had a small room exclusively for this spiritual satsang purposes. So I used to sit and my people used to sit around me. I just discuss about what is Atman, Brahman and kind of things. So it all started like this. So many people started coming. So that room was not enough actually. So my people, friends, they told, why can't we just start an ashram in a small level? It all started like this, We started like this. the Upanishad Mandir, the name was given for that. And it was registered as a very registered ashram. We are doing everything in a very official manner. We have a toll A and ATG and FCR and all these government formalities and all these things are going on. And then when I was performing a satsang in Tiruvannamalai, one of the German attenders, participants, he was so impressed about my satsang, and she invited me, can you able to come to Greece? She was living in Greece that time. I will send you the ticket and visa and everything. Why don't you come there? And we need you very much there, like that. So my foreign tour started like that. From there, it started. Never ending going on now. And then an ashram was also formed in Brazil. The Brazil ashram is really very big. It is in Búzios, near Rio de Janeiro. I used to go there because of the pandemic for about 1 year. I'm not able to go there. My people are there. They are running the ashram. They are teaching. Also in European countries, we have few centers over there. And in the US also, in few states, we have centers. My friends, my followers, they are taking care and teaching the essence of it. This is how it's going on, Vaishali.
That is called organic growth.
Natural growth, isn't it?
Yeah,
Without
we can't.
or anything.
Very true. So let us go back to our main topic. Give us some idea about Vivek Chudamani and who and the main person, the one who has written Shankaracharya ji, so that our audience know that kind of work which he has done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kerala, the God's own country, it has got its own title, God's own country, Kerala. In fact, we have an organization in Kerala also, for your information, Vaishali. Okay. And there's a place called Kaladi near Ernakulam. So in the 8th century, a great avatar took, there was an incarnation, his name, Adi Shankaracharya ji. He dedicated this Viveka Chudamani to the humanity, to the world. And as I told, he defined this Viveka Chudamani as an essence of the whole scriptures of Hindu scriptures. It is his own definition also. Very easy to understand, and of course, little difficult to practice, little difficult to follow, little difficult to experience it. That part is, understanding is very easy because he has simplified it in a very simple way. So, Viveka Chudamani, the very meaning of the title is the crust jewel of discrimination. Crust jewel of discrimination. In the right sense, there are many jewels in the world, but the jewel called Viveka Chudamani cannot be compared with any jewels in the world. That's the real meaning of that. The jewel of wisdom. The jewel of wisdom. The jewel of discrimination. I think we have to understand the word discrimination. In the society, the word discrimination is understood in a different way. Separation, hierarchy, etc. But here the very meaning of discrimination is the intelligence, the capacity to discriminate between the unreal and the real, the false and the truth. This is what exactly the whole essence of this Viveka Chudamani is about, the discrimination between the Maya and the reality, the truth. So the very name is very beautiful. It attracted me like anything. Viveka Chudamani consists of 580 verses, slogas, which is written in a very simple manner. So I can say, even though Viveka Chudamani is available in the internet very much, I think it's available in Sanskrit, the original, which is created by him, and then it's available in English language and regional languages, almost many languages of the world. It's available in the internet, no doubt about it. So I would like to say something here regarding the Viveka Chudamani. One must know how to approach Viveka Chudamani. It is not yet another scripture. It is not just a book to read and finish 580 verses. No, it is not. According to me, one has to prepare oneself first in order to read it properly, in order to understand rightly of what really Adi Shankaracharya ji tries to convey to the individual as well as to the humanity. This is very, very important. One has to have the preparation for oneself to open the book, to read the scripture, one through scripture, Viveka Chudamani. So how to prepare oneself? I can say the person who wants to go through Viveka Chudamani should first be a sadhaka. One should be a sadhaka. Then one can open that, whether it is in internet or in a book form or through a guru or a master, whatever. He must be a sadhaka. If the person is not a sadhaka, not started the sadhana, it's all right. The person must have a complete surrendering. Then Viveka Chudamani can give a tremendous light to the person who is going to read or listen to this amazing scripture, the scripture of scriptures. This is very important thing before you go into reading of or understanding of Viveka Chudamani. How to listen. That is the most important thing. The listener should be really a listener, not simply hearing things, either from a guru or from the text, whatever. So I always start my sessions when I give this beautiful wisdom of Viveka Chudamani to my people. I first start with meditation, at least few minutes. Once the mind is becoming so calm and quiet, then they are ready to listen. This is how this has to be listened. This has to be understood. This is my first point. And also, the Viveka Chudamani is created in such a manner. It is a conversation. It is a dialogue between a master and a disciple, a guru and a shishya. It's a dialogue. It's a beautiful conversation, amazing conversation. This is another thing we have to know about this Viveka Chudamani before you go into this. It's not like something the guru is simply writing some books like this, some theories, something like this, concepts or something like this. It's a dialogue, a practical, a live dialogue between a master and a disciple, guru and Sishya. This is how the Viveka Chudamani is. Okay. The very essence of this Viveka Chudamani, if we just squeeze the 580 verses as a juice, the juice which comes out of Viveka Chudamani is nothing but absolute knowledge of the Brahman, of the Atman. That's the whole essence of it. All other verses and slogas are preparations and descriptions for this essence, which is absolute knowledge about the self, higher self, Atman, the Brahman. So let me give some summaries. Let me precise something of the whole of the 580 slogas for our understanding. After this, I have selected 6 original verses from Shankaracharya Ji's scripture. We will see after this. Now we will see what is the whole essence of the 580 verses of Adi Shankaracharya Ji. So he talks about the greatness of human form. There is a slogan also called Aridu Aridu Manidarai Pirathal Aridu. The meaning is, it is rare and rare to have a human form. That is our blessing, to have a human form in this life. So Viveka Chudamani is talking about the blessings of this, taking a human form in this life. And Viveka Chudamani is discussing about, Adi Shankaracharya Ji is talking about the highness of Guru, the importance of Guru, right? Without a Guru, it is impossible to have the light, to realize the light, to experience godliness, etc. That is his emphasis, the importance of Guru. He also talks very particularly, also very keenly, who is really a Guru? Because today's world especially, there are 2 kinds of gurus. One kind of guru is fake gurus, guru-like. Another kind of gurus are the true Sadgurus. So he is emphasizing on the Sadgurus. Only a Sadguru who has found out his own light, who has realized his own self, only can guide the disciples and the devotees. So he is talking elaborately in his Viveka Chudamani. Also, simultaneously, Adi Shankaracharya Ji is talking about the qualification of the disciple. This is very important. The eligibility is not only for the gurus, the eligibility is also important for the disciples also. How the disciple should be. What are the qualifications of that eligibility to be a disciple? He is talking elaborately in his slogas. Is very interesting and very beautiful. And the question and answer starts afterwards. The question and answer between the Guru and Shishya happens, and the Shishya is in a humbleness, absolute humbleness, is trying to clarify few doubts in his mind, and the Guru is trying to clear out the smokes and the clouds in the minds of the disciple. It goes in a beautiful conversation manner in this beautiful Viveka Chudamani. And then a great emphasis has been given in few slogas, verses about how important the self-effort by the disciple. You know, I have seen also some disciples and devotees, they put every burden on the head of the Guru. You take Guruji everything. We are lazy like, you know. Here, Shankaracharya ji is emphasizing, you cannot do like this with a Guru. Guruji, you take care of everything. We will be doing whatever we like. He is not allowing that point. When you go through Chudamani, he is very clear on no. You have to take responsibility. Guru can only show a path. He can only show, he or she as a guru can only show a path, an idea. That's all. It is you finally have to understand. After understanding, you have to take your own responsibility of walking, and that means implementing the advices given by the master. Then only you will receive a sufficient the fruit of the scripture. Like this, he is emphasizing the self-effort of the student. Okay, and afterwards it travels like this. This Viveka Chudamani is traveling like this, and in one point of time, Shankaracharya ji is talking elaborately about the body, the physical body, and various other bodies also. You know, Annamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha. All these koshas he's talking about. It's important, you know. See, it's not that he's talking about simply about the bodies. He's emphasizing. First, he's explaining different kinds of bodies. And finally, what he is saying is, see, the body, whether it is Annamaya Kosha, physical body or mental body or prana body or intellect body or bliss body, whatever, all these bodies are simply illusion, he says. That's the beauty of Viveka Chudamani. After explaining every single detail of the body, he is finally telling the student, don't be deceived by all the bodies that you have. They are all bodies, that's all. That is yours, that is not you. He is emphasizing every single place, whole of the Viveka Chudamani, you can find one thing constantly. He is talking about illusions, illusionary things like body, mind, etc. At the same time, he is talking what is real, what is unreal, you know, what is Maya, what is not Maya. That is the beauty of this scripture. So likewise, he is taking us through Viveka Chudamani, traveling in such a manner that he is talking elaborately about mind, because mind is an important factor in a sadhaka's life. So he understood very well. Therefore, he is talking so elaborately about mind structure, how the mind is working, how the mind is functioning, how the thought pattern, the thought levels, the subconscious mind, and all these single details. He's talking about every single details. And finally, he's saying the same thing. After describing elaborately about the mind stuff, he is cautioning the disciple, mind is also part of illusion. Be careful. He is really cautioning the disciple, because through the Viveka Chudamani, the one and the only aim of Adi Shankaracharya is to take the disciple to self-realization, the experience, the anubhuti. This is how the scripture travels. We can travel along with that. And also, after these descriptions of that, he is describing elaborately about 10 indriyas, which is very, very important. You know, the Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas, we call it. The action oriented and the senses oriented. 5 plus 5. Pancha Karmendriya and Pancha Jnanendriyas. Totally Dasa Indriyas, 10 Indriyas. He is talking very elaborately, like a scientist. He is talking like a scientist. Every single detail he is amazingly describing. And finally, as usual, he says, these are also part of illusion, Maya. Everywhere there is a caution, like the parents give some caution to a small child, right? Here is a step, you just be careful, you may slip down. Like that, he is cautioning in every place, in every slogan. Every single subject he is talking about, he is cautioning the disciple. My dear disciple, be careful. Whatever I described in the name of Indriyas, they are all just Mayas. Don't be deceived by that. Don't be attached by them. Go beyond. That is his continuous cautions, which I like it very much. I enjoy like anything this part of it. I salute, I bow down to Adi Shankaracharya. Okay, such a beautiful scripture it is. And yeah.
In this, I would like you to describe what is Maya, what is illusion, Maya illusion, and what is his philosophy, because we are talking about Advaita philosophy. So
Yeah.
please describe before we go ahead, so that our audience understand the base, because
Yeah.
that is the base of his comment, his work.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Maya. What is Maya? Which is very, very important to understand what is Maya. Maya, the English word for this is illusion, delusion. He gives a wonderful example. Let me present it here so that everyone can understand very easily with this example. This example, which I am going to tell here, is mentioned in Upanishads also. Here, Adi Shankaracharya ji also taken that example. Here, he is giving an example so that people can understand really what is really illusion, what is Maya. See, for example, in the early morning, say for example, 5 o'clock in the morning, till the sun light is not enough to see the path, the things. Half light, half dark, Sandhya time, you know. When sometimes when a person just walking on a path, suddenly he finds a snake in front of him or her and started trembling, become nervous of the snake in front of him or her. Okay? So sweating and fear, body is trembling, all kind of disturbances. It's like almost like a fear to the death, like because it's a big snake on the way, you know. And at the same time, when the person who is on the way of walking and seeing a snake in front, waited a little bit, and the sun started rising, and the light is coming out and reflected on the ground. And now the walker suddenly realizes that what he saw as a snake is not a snake, it's just a rope. I think there is no better example than this. That is why whole of the Upanishad, this example is cited and cited and cited. And Adi Shankara is not exceptional here also. He has given this example here also. In few slogans, he is talking very elaborately about this snake and the rope play, the play, the Maya example. Wonderful example, right? See, there were not two objects. There is only one object, not the other. The real object is just a rope, nothing else. But it gives an idea like a snake. Why that particular single object, the rope, which is a reality, is giving the idea like a snake is because of the absence of light. Absence of light. In the absence of light, a dead rope looks like a poisonous snake, a big snake, a cobra, isn't it? That creates all kind of fear, the worry, and whatnot, frustration, anxiety, depression, and all kind of mental disturbances. You know. So now let us come to understand what he is really saying. The Maya, the world. He says the world is a Maya. The objective world is Maya, like the snake and the rope. This, whatever we see, whatever we sense through our sense organs, is nothing but Brahman. Is nothing but Brahman. That's a reality. That's the truth. Doesn't matter what you see, what we see. It may be a big building, it may be ocean, it may be sun, it may be moon, it may be anything, or it may be tiny things. Doesn't matter, starting from dust to sun or whatever. Everything is nothing but Brahman. 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 So, who will be afraid of Brahman? Who will be afraid of Brahman? Why people are afraid in the world? Why every day the tension, the stress? Like the person who was walking and found a snake, which is really a rope. The same situation in the world also. So this particular example he is giving, also the comparison to the world that we live in, is the medicine for all the diseases of the world. In one single stroke, he is such a great doctor. Adi Shankaracharya is the doctor of all the doctors of the world, because he gives only one medicine for all kind of diseases. Now you know why I love him very much, why I love Viveka Chudamani very much. Of all the scriptures I have selected for today's session discussion talking. Yes, because of this single medicine cures all the disease of the society. This is my opinion also. People are trying to find out solution for so many problems in the world. Political issues, social issues, communal issues, terrorism, financial issues, and so many issues to talking. People are talking and discussing for centuries and centuries and centuries. My humble thing here, what I want to say is, there is no need to discuss elaborately about all the solutions. Better to read Viveka Chudamani. That is the only solution for all the issues of the world. All the issues I underline. Doesn't matter whether it is the issue of the physical illness or mental illness, or society problems, or nation's problem, or international problem, including COVID-19. His wisdom is a solution, is a medicine, one wisdom, one understanding about. This understanding is knowing this is a rope, this is not snake. That's it. It takes only this much time. One need not spend the whole lifetime to have this medicine. It's just only this much time. This world is not a snake. This world is simply a rope-like. It is Brahman. It is God. It is godliness spread everywhere. So who will be afraid of God? What we see is nothing but God. What we listen is nothing but God's voice. What we sense is God's. There is nothing other than God. then who will be afraid of God? Hmm? Poor. We are all very poor, not understanding what's happening in and around us. This understanding is very important. I really bow down one more time to Adi Shankaracharya ji, offering, dedicating, offering such a beautiful remedy to this humanity. See, this is ever living scripture. This was offered 8th century. It's almost 1200 years gone, right? Still it is alive. I tell you, the same Viveka Chudamani, the people, when they read it after 10,000 years after, this is going to be the medicine for all the people, all kind of people, irrespective of differentiation among them. This is a solution. This is my understanding. This is my experience, at least. Okay. This is what Maya is all about. The theory of Maya. Even yes, it is Maya. It is illusion. As long as one is not have the intelligence to find out whether it is snake or no, it's only single object. The objective world is nothing but a Brahman in form, in names. The form came. Names are given by us only, right? There was no name. For example, a tree. The tree started existing on this earth. The tree doesn't know it is a tree, isn't it? We gave the name later on. It was already existing. We human beings started existing on the earth one day, and we started calling it tree, Maram. We just named it. So the namology came later on. It is man created, but the form came. So we have to understand how the form is appearing. There are so many forms and forms and forms, including the form of the gods and goddesses. How how this happens, we have to contemplate upon. What is the source of all the objects in this universe? Starting from a dust to any big thing, of any big star. How they are existing? What is the source? This is what Adi Shankaracharya is giving a clue for us to contemplate upon, to meditate upon, to find out the truth. What is the source of this universe? He calls it Brahman, right? It's we to understand what is this Brahman he's calling. He's also referring as Atman. We have to experience what is Atman. It is not enough just to repeat the word Atma, 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 Jivatma, Paramatma. There's no point in simply repeating like a parrot. One has to take the responsibility. He is emphasizing in Viveka Chudamani to his disciple, the conversation. See, don't be lazy. Don't simply listen like a story about what I'm saying to you. Please contemplate on it. Don't even believe me, he says. Don't even believe me. Trust me. I will give you the wisdom. You contemplate and then you find out the truth. What I am saying, Brahman, what I am saying, Maya, what I am saying, Atman, what I am saying, Indriyas, what I am saying, Pranas, you find out yourself. Like that, he is giving the responsibility to the disciples. It's a beautiful conversation, amazing conversation. It's not a conversation. According to me, it's not just a conversation. It's not a word play between the disciple and the master. It is a life exchanging, energy exchanging. The guru is passing on some light into the heart of the disciple. This is how it goes. Words are secondary. The slogas are secondary. This is how Viveka Chudamani is going on in all these kind of slogas. And most importantly, he is emphasizing, Shankaracharya ji is emphasizing repeatedly throughout the Viveka Chudamani, the non-self and self. Atma, Anatma. Atma, Anatma. He is so keen on using this. This is what discrimination. You know? You have seen Viveka Chudamani, crushed jewel of discrimination, the meaning of the title. What is the discrimination? The human beings, we have to have the intelligence to discriminate what is Atman and what is Anatman. What is self, what is non-self. This is one of the essence of this particular scripture, Viveka Chudamani. And he is keep on explaining. It's not only explanation he is giving with regard to the self and non-self, with Atma and Anatma, he is justifying, he wants to establish the self, what is self, right? Because he is expert in debating. That is a specialty. His specialty is when he was in the body, he used to debate with his great scholars, whoever it is. He just want to sit in front of them, whatever debate he was ready. He is expert in that. Many masters are not like that. Many masters, they are simply coming and sitting on the stage, giving lectures, whatever they know. He is not of that kind. He is debate. No, he is a challenging. He is challenging personality. He is Shankaracharya ji. So here also he is giving all the justifications. What is non-self and what is self? And he is coming to the conclusion and making the disciple to come to the conclusion that how you should be associated with the self and keeping the non-self away from you, which is the climax of this Viveka Chudamani as I see. And most importantly, I would like to say, all these non-self are like a dust, or like a pollutions, or like infections, or like viruses, or like bacteria. He is emphasizing in few slokas, verses, please be free from all the viruses, all the bacteria, all the impurities on the self, which is very, very important. This is where a true guru, a Sadguru is working with the disciple. You know, he is not, a Sadguru is not giving anything new to a disciple. Nothing new. Self is already there. There is no need to create a self. There is no need to bring the God or the godliness or the divinity. Divinity is already there. What is important there? The impurities around the divinity, the impurities around the Atman. So he says these are all superimpositions for many, many births that we traveled. The number of births, it is not countable. Innumerable births we traveled for many, many lives. So we caught up many, many impurities. He says, now you have a human form. This is the opportunity for you. Please take off the superimpositions and see your originality. Do not keep so many masks. Show your original face. Take off the mask completely, except the COVID mask. Yes. So this is how Vaishalaji, I see the 580 verses. It's a beautiful travel.
That's wonderful, Swamiji. But now I wanted to understand that what are the verses which really are important for someone to study? As you said, you have got some 5 to 6 verses.
Yes,
So please
absolutely.
share that. And also, I think you still haven't answered what is Advaita philosophy, the one which he has propagated.
Yes, I will. Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta. There are two things, Dvaita and Advaita, right? See, Dvaita means more than one. That's it. That means multiplicity, Dvaitam. No. Duality in English, duality. Whenever there is a duality, one must be aware that it is dual. If you are not aware that it is dual, there is a chance of getting attached with duality. That duality can create a conflict in the mind. That conflict in the mind will prevent the person to experience what is God. So it is completely the other side, Advaita, Advaita, not the other one. There is no other. In English, we can understand oneness, oneness, right? Merging, complete merging. No differentiation, no differentiation. The tree and me one, the ocean and me one, the river and me one, everything is one. This is what the oneness, this is what Advaita is all about. So the Vedanta, which is talking about Advaita, is some slogas and versions, taking the person from duality, from the conflict, to a non-conflict area, which is called Satchidananda, absolute blissfulness. So Advaita, the ultimate experience of Advaitic experience is nothing but absolute blissfulness. That's my solution.
Okay, what about the shlokas which we discussed? You have got few shlokas which you would like to know.
Yes. I have out of 580 slogas, I have taken 6 slogas, which was very hard for me because it's very difficult to delete any slogas from this 580. I cannot say these slogas are important, this is not important. We cannot say that because God Himself has written that. You know, Adi Shankaracharya is nothing but he is avatar of Lord Shiva himself. So how a man like me vomit his words, vomit his verses? It is impossible. But due to the time, Vaishalaji, you have given only 1 hour time. I need at least 6 months time for me to, to talk about Viveka Chudamani alone. You have given only 1 hour to me. It's all right because I understand your situation. So we have only 5 minutes left out. So I have, out of time pressure, I have chosen only 6 slokas, 6 verses. Let me go through quickly. Okay. Yeah. This is slogan number 3. Adi Shankaracharya ji is saying his original verse in English. I'm reading it in English. Okay. Only through God's grace may we obtain those 3 rarest advantages: human birth, the longing for liberation, and discipleship with an illuminated teacher. This is the slogan in English form. It's very simple to understand, no need of explanation. He says every single human being is blessed with 3 blessings. One blessing is taking a human form itself is the greatest blessing, one thing. Second blessing is the longing for liberation, longing for moksha, longing for mukti in this life itself, not after life, not in the next life, in this life itself. That's a second blessing. And the third blessing is finding a guru, a real guru, a true guru, Satguru, and being with the guru and learning something, imparting something from the Satguru. This is the another blessing he says in this slogan. The next verse I have chosen today is the seventh one. Here he says, the scriptures declare that immortality cannot be gained through work or genetic lineage or riches, but by a renunciation alone. Hence, it is clear that work cannot bring us liberation. This is a very authentic slogan. He is emphasizing because he is so brilliant and he is so scholar, the greatest scholar. He has gone through many, many scriptures, especially Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, etc. And he has done bhashyas for all these beautiful scriptures. So he knows all these things within the age of 32. And he says, the scriptures, he says, he's not saying, I am saying, he never says, I am saying this. He says, the scriptures, all the scriptures says, immortality cannot be gained by work or by genetic lineage or by riches, but only by renunciation. Hence, it is clear that work cannot bring liberation. He's talking about moksha. How to get the moksha, how to get liberation. He's saying in this sloka, rich people cannot get it. Since because they are rich, they cannot get it. Since because he is the son of a enlightened one or something, or born in the particular lineage, there is no chance of liberation, moksha. Nobody can give guarantee for that. But there is a guarantee when one is following the path of renunciation. He is emphasizing the renunciation. This is what it is. That's the one and the only way to attain to the immortality, the deathless and the birthless, the eternal. This is how this sloga goes. And the third one, the 12th, it is the 12th sloga, which is very beautiful. He's talking about what you really asked about Maya. This is a sloga related to the Maya, illusion, right? He says, correct judgment shows us the true nature of a rope and removes the painful fear caused by the deluded belief that it is a large snake, that we already explained. You know, he is talking about illusion, giving this example that we already saw, the snake and the rope example. And the 34, slogan number 34, this is the fourth one. Two more things are there. Shortly we will go through. Let the seeker, he's talking about seeker here, the sadhaka. Right? Let the seeker approach the master with reverent devotion. Then when he has pleased him by his humility, love, and service, let him ask for whatever is to be known about the Atman. You know, he is talking about the quality of a seeker, how a seeker should be. Right? He must be lovable, with humility, with humbleness, with service, seva-hearted one, approaching a master, serving the master of the need of his physical needs, and asking the master in a humble way about how to have the experience of Atman, wisdom of Atman, like that. Lakshana, this is a Lakshana of the Shishya. And then the fifth one goes like this. This is a 134 sloga, nature of self. He's talking about nature of self, nature of Atman. Self, it is never born. It's a very authentic, this very authentic slogan. I really enjoy whenever I read it. It is never born. It is never die. It is neither increases nor decreases. It has no changes. It is eternal. Even when the body dissolves, it remains like a space. So this sloka tells everything about it. This is the essence of all the scriptures of the world, of the Hindu scriptures. That's why I've chosen very few out of 580. Okay. And the last slogan, the last words is talking about the state of the realized one. After getting all the knowledge from the Guru, the Shishya got the knowledge and experimented, did the sadhana, and become like the master, right? Actually, the Viveka Chudamani is like that. In the end of the sloka, there was no difference between disciple and master. They all become one. They all become light. Like a river enter into ocean, we cannot trace out the river separately from the ocean. It's like that. The ending part of the Viveka Chudamani is like that. So this is 516. That's why you see 516 number. now the film is coming to the climax. Yes. so the slogan says, I am the soul of all. I am all. I am beyond all. I am without the second, Advaita. I am without the second. I am one with the universal consciousness. I am everlasting blissfulness itself. This is a declaration by the true disciple, not a fake disciple, true disciple who really obeyed the master, obeyed the guru, and listened to his words and contemplated in his heart and meditated and found out the experience as a fruit. And this is the state of the disciple. That's what he says.
It's really beautiful, Swamiji. I'm so glad that you have explained Vivek Chudamani so clearly, very simply, and some of the shlokas which we really have to understand so that we understand this craft, this work which he has done. Swamiji, I one more thing. There are many shlokas which describe Atma and the journey of Atma in Bhagavad Gita also. So, if we have to do comparative studies, what do you think where Atma is, or the journey of Atma, or this whole meditative form, and Advait, which is oneness, which we are talking about, Advait, oneness, is different or it is similar in Bhagavad Gita? And which shloka? We have to give an example of any particular shloka if you can comment.
Actually, we don't see any difference between Bhagavad Gita and also Viveka Chudamani. In different styles, that's all we can say. Both Krishna and here in Adi Shankaracharya ji, both are saying the same truth, right? But Bhagavad Gita is appealing to some people because it is so elaborate and so many varieties are there over there. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and all these kind of things are going on. And for many people, it looks like so practical, right? So you can see in many places, Krishna says to Arjuna, when he especially asked, Krishna says in one place, I preached the same wisdom to Surya, that is Vivasva, right? Long ago. Now I am teaching the same wisdom to you, right? This is his statement. And he was shocked, Arjuna was shocked really, as you all know. What is your age then? When these people lived? Those people lived long ago. But you say now you taught all the same wisdom to them. You just incarnated now, few years, you are here. How it was possible? Like that. Krishna is simply little bit smiles and talks to Arjuna, says, Arjuna, we have been. He says, we have been. He never said, I have been, I was. No. He included Arjuna also in this statement. He says, we have been living long, many births. I remember them. I remember. You don't remember. You don't remember. That's the only difference. That means what? See, the forms are changing, keep on changing. The characters are changing within the frame of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvic. That's all, nothing else. A little bit color combination changes, and the bodies, the dresses changes. That's all. But there is something constantly going on, traveling, right? So, what he is trying to convince Arjuna, you can simply compare here what Adi Shankaraji says, only Brahman exists, nothing else. All objects in the world, the universe, are nothing but manifestation of the Brahman. That's it. So there is no conflict anywhere between Bhagavad Gita and Vivekachudamani. Not only Bhagavad Gita, any scripture. There is no contradiction anywhere. It's a human mind which is trying to create discriminations and conflicts, etc. There is nothing like that.
Swamiji, I was just going through this our video, and somebody has asked this question that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, which is a very famous statement by Vivek Chudamani, Jiva Brahmave Tapaha. This famous verse of Vivek Chudamani, how influencing and importance of present world. So I think he means that how much it is important for this world, this particular statement, because here we have lots of other philosophies and lots of other things getting propagated by lots of other gurus, I think.
Vaishalaji, can you present it in English?
Yeah, he's saying that Brahma Sat, there is a verse which says that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. This statement is in Vivek Chudamani. So how much it is relevant in today's time? Further, yeah.
Yes. See, what he is saying is we have to understand. He says Maya, he says it is illusion, right? It is shadow. This is for the seekers. We have to understand. This is who he is speaking. He is speaking to whom? That you have to understand. All these statements you can see in Vivek Chudamani. The very beginning of the slogas, he is talking to a imperfect disciple, right? When a guru talks to an imperfect disciple, he has to say it is false, right? So that he will be detached from the falsity, he will be detached from the illusion, so that he will be searching for the truth. Once the truth is experienced, there is no such Maya. He himself is cancelling his own verses. This is the beauty of Vivek Chudamani. Not only Vivek Chudamani, any scripture. Okay.
The next question is, how do you see for new seekers or someone who's interested in learning scriptures, how important it is, how much it is important to study this scripture, and how to and where to study from, because there are many versions available. So maybe you can mention couple of commentaries which you know and you think it is worth recommending.
Yes. Probably I can recommend the same thing. I can say it one more time. Sloga number 3, number 7, number 12, number 34, number 134, number 516, 516.
So who's any particular author who has written commentaries on Vivek Chudamani that maybe if you can mention?
Yes, yes, yes. It's a very, very, very important thing. I am very thankful to you, Vaishalaji, because today world is internet world. You know,
Yeah.
in the YouTube, oh my God, everybody is making commentary on everything, everything. We do not know which commentary we can take, which one may be true, which one may be false. We do not know. It is such a dangerous time we are living in, right? In olden days, there was no such thing, right? One has to go to a physical master, one has to be with him for at least 12 years, and we have to listen from a guru, Satguru, and he will teach, right? So he was not allowed, the disciple was not allowed to take a notes even. Those days, a beautiful days, those days, Gurukul days. Today, it is open internet. Everywhere commentaries about everything. I have seen some commentaries on Viveka Chudamani. Horrible. I tell you, horrible. Horrible meanings is written. Horrible it is. You know, I will tell you, you ask me which author you can follow. I will tell you a guidance. You have to find out an author who is almost on par with Adi Shankaracharya. It is a tough answer.
Like who? I mean, it's not so easy to find. That's the reason we are asking you that at least to begin with, whose commentaries we should read.
Yeah, I can say Chinmayanandaji.
Okay.
Chinmayanandaji, one can follow.
Okay. Okay.
And in
Yeah.
Ramakrishna, in Ramakrishna missions, there are few Swamijis, very nice commentators. They are really good because they are all realized people. Uh, so you can have a guidance from Ramakrishna mission. Mhm. At present, only I can say this much.
Yeah. Okay. So in one more thing, Swami ji, मैंने आपको पूछा था that in our all those philosophical we have different schools of thoughts. You said this is Advaita, so I want our audience to know that Advaita means two duality, which is where two things are there, which is one Purush, which is God, and then the Jiva. So so
Right.
when that is Dvaita philosophy. Sorry, that's a Dvaita philosophy. So in Advait, there are oneness. So what does that mean? So that means the soul merges into that Purush or into that Ishwar. Does
Yes.
that mean?
See, both the paths are really beautiful paths. I am also teaching. In my teaching, I am also recommending Dvaita path also. Bhakti is more or less that.
Right,
Bhakti
yeah.
I am recommending Bhakti in my ashram. And wherever I go, I recommend Bhaktis. So I give certain god and goddesses for contemplating purposes to do the bhakti and all everything and the bhajans, the kirtan, everything I'm administering. Knowing well it is a Dvaidik path. Dvaidik path is made as a tool to merge into Advaita path, right? It is a transport. It's a transport. In Dvaidik part, there is a Jivatma and Paramatma. Jivatma is in the body and worshipping, praying, and doing all the humbleness to the God favorite Paramatma, whether it is Krishna or Sri Shiva or whatever, the favorite. As a result of the ripening of the bhakti, of the devotion, what happens really? Sri Ramakrishna is the best example. Sri Ramakrishna, you know, Paramahamsa, he is the best example of this variety. He started his spiritual journey starting from his young age as a Dvaidik. He worshipped Kali, you all know. Being an Indian origin, Vaishaliji know very well how he started his journey with the Dvaidik approach, right?
Yes.
Kali. For Ramakrishna, everything was Kali. in the beginning, right? He used
Yeah,
to go and stand in front and pray, "Oh Ma Kali," and all these things with great, goose bumping and all these things, right? And one point of time, as the ripening of his bhakti devotion, Kali blessed him. Kali blessed him, the very Kali blessed him to be into Advaitic state. That is a gift from the favorite God, right? This is how it grows. It's a growth. It's not a contradiction. Some
okay.
people are talking Dvaidik and Advaitic, they're all
Yes,
contradict.
that is the reason I asked you that is there any conflict in their understanding? But I'm so glad that you have explained this so well. Swamiji, I mean, we have run out of time and thank you. I'm
No,
so
I have
glad.
taken more than 20 minutes.
Yes, yes, yes. But thank you so much. I'm really glad that you have, spoken to our audience. We have cleared many of my doubts as well, and the doubts which our audience has asked. And I'm so happy that you blessed all of us with this knowledge. Thank you so much, Swamiji. Thank you. Hari Om.
I'm
Hari Om.
really, really thankful to you. And I'm also thankful to our friend who lives in Vijesh, who really introduced me to you, really. This is a nice introduction. He has done it. He has done a wonderful thing. He has introduced me another beautiful friend, that is you, Vaishaliji. Thank you very much for coming to my life, right? Thank you very much for giving such a wonderful opportunity for me to simplify this beautiful scripture, Viveka Chudamani.
Thank you. Thank you.
Om
Thank you.
Shanti.
Om Shanti.